This show is proudly sponsored by Habitats at Home, Australia's leading PVC enclosure specialist. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Habitats at Home, and be sure to visit habitatsathome.com.au if you're in the market for PVC reptile enclosures and other reptile supplies. Massive thanks to Tyson over at Habitats at Home. G'day and welcome to Chat Green Tree Pythons. I've got my co-host here, Dan, and today we are welcoming our guest, Paul Daly from Wide Bay Chondros. G'day, Paul.
G'day, how are you?
Really well, thanks, mate. I should ask too, how are you going, Dan?
Oh man, I'm going really well. I was just
That's good.
I've been really looking forward to having Paul on. He's I describe him as a true gentleman. And a great bloke to talk to, Paul. You're a smart guy, and I think it's your clinical background. I reckon it's
Okay.
it's been when we get on the phone, it's just an hour can go by really fast. Hey?
Yeah, we have some good chats. I enjoy them, must admit.
Yeah, well, Paul, I've only known you for a little while. We've only had a couple of phone calls, and I reckon they probably could have gone for a bit longer, that's for sure.
For sure, definitely. Yeah. You have to tell me to shut up because I can waffle on a bit.
Oh, well, I think we're both in that same boat, so it's good. All right, well, would you like to give us just a bit of a rundown on, firstly, your history with reptiles in general, and then how things began with the chondros?
Yeah, sure. I guess it kind of goes back like most of us and to childhood. I was obviously brought up in the UK and always mad on all sorts of animals. As a young child, I'd be going across the fields catching frogs and newts, and we'd go fishing in canals and find grass snakes and all sorts of stuff that I'd bring home and get in trouble from my mum for these animals I'd be taking home as a kid. And I got my first snakes while I was a student when I was about 18 or 19 back in the 1980s. I got some garter snakes, and got wasn't really supposed to keep animals in the residences when I was a student, so I kind of got in trouble for keeping these garter snakes. And I had to take them home to my mum's place, which she wasn't best pleased about. So that was my first introduction to keeping pet snakes. We emigrated, me and the wife and the kids, when they were very young, to Australia in 2011, and I got hold of some spotted pythons and some jungle pythons and albino Darwin pythons, and the general kind of carpet pythons and Antaresia that people keep. It's kind of the bug had always been with me, and I'd always chased a dream of getting chondros. Got my first one. Well, actually, found it difficult to even find out anybody that I could get a green tree python from. They were kind of this mythical creature that it was hard to even find. But got my first one at the end of 2020, and yeah, started just becoming addicted by green tree pythons, chondros. So went from one to two, and then actually injured my shoulder in 2021, and the carpet pythons, the bigger pythons, were getting difficult to handle, just because of the muscular, and the weight of them, while I had the shoulder injury. So I kind of sold them and just independently keep green tree pythons now for the last few years. So yeah, green trees from about 2020, end of 2020, so coming up to 5 years now.
Yeah, and how many have you got in the collection now?
All together at the moment, it's always a change in number, and that's been the case since I had my first clutch last year. But at the moment, there's 14 of them. So I've got 9 adults, stroke sub-adults, and one, two, three, four, five, and 5 babies. Well, I say
I think
babies,
that's
coming up to a kind of 8 or 9 months kind of thing, the babies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very reasonable number and a very reasonable sort of growth in the collection. So that's like, I guess 9 that you bought in over the last 4 or 5 years, and then a few that you bred yourself. That's pretty good. You
Yeah.
you hear stories about people jumping into this and ended up with sort of 20 or 30 pretty rapidly. And
Yeah, I
um,
think like I've been talking to a guy on Messenger or Instagram. I can't remember which. One a new fella, and is real keen, really keen. He's got one that he bought recently from Reptile Classifieds. He's just got another one on the way, and I've been trying to encourage him to slow down because he's been trying to just buy anything he can get his hands on, and I'm trying to just say to him, you'd be much better slowing down. Um, in you grow with your knowledge and your animals, get to know them, kind of thing. Don't buy too many too quick. It's a bit of a mistake, I reckon.
I think so too, and I think that kind of sort of that's a bit of a a concept for any animals that you get, because
Yeah.
what if you don't like them? What if you don't like
Yeah.
actually keeping them? Because that's
Yeah.
I know that's a big thing for me. I've it's taken me a while to figure that out myself. That I go to clean an animal and I'm like, oh, geez, getting this brown snake out is a chore. Maybe I actually don't like keeping this as much as I think I do. So, um, yeah, I mean that's something that people should consider too, for sure, when getting any animals.
Yeah, I
And
think
I think
you
we're
see
probably
people
go on,
burn
Dan.
out all the time. I was just going to say, you see people burn out all the time. Like the reality is that you're just cleaning and changing water bowls most of the year. So
Yeah,
For sure. And
keep it
I think
manageable.
I really found that we'll probably touch on it later on in the discussion, I'm sure. But I really found that with breeding for the first time last season, having one relatively small clutch. Um, Actually, that's a hell of a lot of hard work. Just one small clutch, just cleaning babies out, feeding them, getting them established. And, you could look at it and think, it'd be great if I had a big clutch or two clutches or three clutches. But I think certainly in the early days, one relatively small clutch was enough work. For the last 8 or 9 months, I've kind of first thing I do in the morning is come into the snake room and check on all the babies and clean them out and give them fresh water and make sure they're all good. And then again, at the end of the day, first thing I do when I get home from work is check on the babies. So imagine, see people having 40, 50, 60 babies. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, you got to get clearance
yeah.
from your wife, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Well,
Or your
I think it's
partner,
one
should I
thing.
say?
It's one thing like physical work, time spent actually changing water bowls, but also the mental weight of it as well. Like, you think about, oh, geez, I got those 6 babies at home, and that's 6 live animals that depend on you. 40, 50, 60. The care has to be there for that amount of animals for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think sparked the chondro passion?
Um, I think I don't know. Actually, it's a good question. I think that they've always been this kind of, I don't know, like to me the pinnacle animal in terms of snakes, kind of thing. This beautiful green dragon-looking kind of animal. They're just the pure beauty of them, kind of thing. I've just always wanted them, and actually, I wish I'd have got them earlier because I think there's too many myths around them being like so difficult to keep, and then they're not. They're not. Once you've got things dialed in and you've got a bit of knowledge, then they're not really as hard as people think.
Yeah, definitely. There are several myths about them for sure that could be dispelled, especially the aggressive one. Like
Yeah,
both of
yeah,
mine, or the whatever ones I've got here, none of them are aggressive or willing to bite, sort of in any way. You can just pluck them out of their cage if you needed to. But if the sun's down and it's dark, you will get bitten if you
maybe
put your
not.
hand in the
Yeah,
cage. And
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of those sort of old myths and stories that have been around for a long time, and hopefully, with things like this podcast and a few people out there chatting, we can sort of get rid of a few of those and see the green pythons really flourish, which I think they are. They seem to be really
yeah.
flourishing, sort
I
of
think so.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Very good. So if you were to get a new animal in, say a yearling,
Yeah.
how would you go about setting that guy up? What would your procedure be in getting a new animal?
Yeah. Okay. So typically, I wouldn't be buying a yearling. I'd typically buy, um, you know, young kind of hatchlings, probably 3 or 4 months old, and grow them up from. I like to see them go through that arc, and I think the younger ones travel better and establish better than older animals. But yeah, if I was to get a yearling, I would. They get quarantined in our bedroom actually. So I've got a snake room. This is the room I'm sitting in at the moment. It's a double garage, and all my racks and caging and incubator, everything's in this room. But I'd keep the animal quarantined in a separate room, um, and probably for a good 3 or 4 months, 6 months probably, and then get nido testing done on it. Once we know it's clear, then we can move it into the main collection. But nido testing is a bone of contention, I think, in Australia. I wish we had the capability of self-testing. It really bugs me that we can't self-test for nidovirus and other common pathogens in our snakes, just like they do in the States, and pop it in a transport envelope and send it to a lab and get a result quickly. Because I think it stops people from people can't afford to get it done, and therefore that's one of the problems with disease spread in Australia at the moment. I think one of the problems is ignorance. People don't know about it, and the other one is, when they do know about it, affordability. When you're paying $200 or $300 for a test, and you really want 3 clear tests, it's absolutely understandable why people aren't getting it done.
Oh, without a doubt, that's our biggest barrier. Our biggest
I think
barrier
so.
to testing snakes for viruses is the cost, and unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon in Australia. And I think, like, from what I can gather, the difference between Australia and the US is just the number of tests that they are getting. Maybe if they were getting hundreds of tests a day in Australia, the price could be cheaper. But we
Yeah.
just don't have the capita. Is my understanding of that. Um, I'd be
Just,
happy if.
I was going to say, just
Sorry,
be
go
good to
ahead,
be able to,
Dylan.
it'd just be good to be able to cut the vet out, wouldn't it? Just
Yeah.
be able to do it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. That's half the cost is the consultation with the vet.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, interesting. We've got a good vet up here in Cairns. He's willing for us to just give him the swabs. We can skip the consultation, which is pretty handy.
I think that's great. I don't think that's, from my experience, I don't think that's typical though.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. He's a trusting guy, and I guess we've got a really good relationship, so that probably helps that one get that one over the line there for sure.
Well, it's also you're working at a zoological kind of institution, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that makes them think that we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe, maybe. Okay, so you've got a young
Oh,
one in. What kind of? Sorry, go Dan.
I was going to say, so you'd be doing like a sunshine virus test as well, Paul?
Yeah.
All
So
the whole panel?
I take my snakes to the unusual pet vets. Um, it's a long journey because we don't have. I live in Bundaberg, or just north of Bundaberg, and we don't have any real reptile specialist vets locally. And so, yeah, I go to the unusual pet vets in the Sunshine Coast or Brisbane. And yeah, I think they normally like to test for sunshine, nido, and Borna virus. They're
Yeah.
the 3 that they usually go for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. That's the three that the vet up here is willing to test for most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if you get a new guy in, a new 3 or 4 month old, how are you setting that up in an enclosure?
So I've got a youngster. I've got a hatchy rack with 4 tubs in it.
Yeah,
So I have a bigger hatchy rack for the chondros that I produce myself, and I've got a 4 bay one that just takes Systema. I want to say like 10 or 15 litre. I'm not really sure the size. Tubs. So that again, that can go in the bedroom as well. It's just heated with heat cord with a just a Habitat pulse proportional thermostat on it. So that can go into the bedroom as well. Luckily, my wife's very tolerant to these kind of things.
yeah. Well, a 4 bay hatchery rack doesn't take up too much room.
No,
You can sneak
no,
heaps more in the bedroom.
exactly right. Yeah, yeah, of
No,
course, fantastic idea.
yeah. Maybe we'll see. But all right. So you bred them last year for the first time. How did you feel
Yeah,
going into that? Was it a daunting sort of thing for you, or were you well prepared?
yeah. Well, but I think kind of both. Yes, it was daunting, and um, but I felt that I was as well enough prepared as I could be. I'd read the books. I'd listened to as many podcasts, thousands of podcasts focusing on breeding and what have you. And I picked. I mean, I've got it here. It's kind of become almost like my Bible. It's this. It's 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 actually a list of 13 questions that I sent to one, two, three, four, 5 breeders that I kind of trusted, and I sent them these 13 questions and got answers to these questions, which helped me then formulate. Half these guys were very experienced. Been doing it for 20 years or so, and a couple of them were less experienced. Been breeding just more recently and maybe got 2 or 3 clutches in the past recent couple of seasons. So that those questions went out in November 23. Um, um, in advance of the breeding season starting for 24. So from talking to people, um, from the podcast, from reading the books, I felt that I was as well prepared as I possibly could be.
Well, it sounds like you were very well prepared. Definitely. I uh, how did you go about I guess reaching out to these guys? I think I'd be a bit intimidated maybe if it was me just reaching out with a stack of questions to some of the experienced
Yeah,
guys. I
so
know.
yeah, so I knew all of them anyway. I think one of the things is that's really good in the community that we've got going with green tree pythons in Australia at the moment is that there's some really good networks that are building up kind of thing, and people are sharing knowledge and things. That's why this podcast is going to be great, really, because we see the 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 state of play in the USA and where they're at with chondros, and they're ahead of us for sure. So now that we're building up relationships with people, it's good. People, you can ask questions of people. So these guys, I knew all of them. I'd either bought snakes from them or I, made contact with them and built up relationships. So didn't seem like I was asking anybody out of the blue, just some random guy saying, "Oh, do you mind me asking you to answer these questions?" And
13
and I,
questions.
you know, you can't see it here, but the first bit here is just the blurb that I sent out that just kind of explained who I was, what I was looking for, what I was hoping to achieve, and a little bit of information about the equipment and the my husbandry kind of thing. And I, I color coded their answers so I can see now. Just I don't know if it picks it up very well, but there's just a page there, and you can see different colors I
Yeah.
don't know if the camera picks that up, but I can see just by opening any page, any time who gave me what answer to what question. And so I was able to use those collective pieces of knowledge from these guys that I already knew. And that was really helpful. And from that, I formulated my own kind of opinions and plan. And I think what was really useful to me out of that, I picked, although I did go to a number of people for advice as the season went on, but I picked one main mentor. And he was absolutely brilliant. You know, the guy took phone calls from me every other day, every third day. He answered my messages. He sent photos. He looked at photos or videos that I was sending him. He pulled me down off the ceiling when I was having panics numerous times. And you know, I think when I got them hatched, he put a comment on one of my posts saying that he felt like he'd lived this journey vicariously with me for the whole season, because he might as well have been here next to me. He was such a good mentor.
I was going to ask Paul, did was it all, all those 13 responses, whatever, all those mentors, were they similar, or was there like some really differences, or was it all
Yeah,
fairly?
it's a good question. Yeah, generally similar. Nothing that comes to mind that was that anybody said that was completely off the wall kind of thing. So
Cool.
yeah.
That helps. That helps a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think that's the drawback about asking too many people, and it's the drawback of social media as well. You know, you can get mixed up with hearing so many different opinions that it's hard to know what's right and what's wrong, and it's hard to differentiate fact from fiction sometimes. So you've got to be careful asking too many people.
And very opinionated people that haven't really done too much either.
Yeah.
They can come across very knowledgeable, but
yeah, I think certainly on the social media, I think there's the that there's a risk of that, and I think it puts off the very people who we want to comment. They kind of get fed up with the overnight experts coming in, chiming in. They've got a bit of experience, but they haven't. Well, they've got a bit of knowledge, but they haven't got the experience, is what I probably should say. And I consider myself still a novice in green tree pythons, even though I've been keeping snakes for many years. And I'm reserved still on what I say to people. I don't want to give anybody bad advice, kind of thing. And it would be good to see some of the guys that have been doing this for years and years chip in more frequently. And I think one of the reasons that they don't is because of exactly what you say there, Dan. There's sometimes it's hard to know that, particularly for new keepers, that they're probably listening to somebody who's relatively inexperienced themselves.
Absolutely. There's so much information out there, and being able to, well, you can consume as much as you want, but if you can't discern what's the right information or what's the right
Yeah,
information for you,
yeah,
then
yeah.
you're kind of stuffed. Paul, I want to mention too is it sounds like you've had a few good mentors, but it sounds like you're also a really, really good student. I mean, printing out the information and having it all there organized and color coded, ready to go is pretty damn impressive. And I can tell you what, mate, if I had done that through my university degree, maybe I would have got some better grades.
I think it's just my OCD. I was literally, I think it's breeding animals of any kind, I suppose, isn't something that anybody should go into lightly. And if you want to do it, you want to try and give it your best success. We all know it's fraught with risk and dangers anyway. There's that many horror stories about people that have had problems where they've lost animals in the breeding process. You've got to be able to take a few kicks in the balls, kind of thing. So, you know, my view, and I guess it's my kind of level of OCD in doing this is if I'm going to do it, I want to give it my best shot, and it's a continual learning process, and on that as well, it's interesting. I was reading some of my notes only earlier from last year. I've made copious notes on. I use Reptile Buddy as my, I scan all the details into everything's QR scanned, so husbandry, breeding records, and stuff like that. But I took a load of yeah. There you go, similar thing for sure, and that's fine. Uh, um, um, but I also took a load of written notes as well. So I might be on the phone to somebody, I'm scribbling notes down, and there is a danger that you can overdo it as well, and almost overwhelm yourself with information. As I say, I was reading through stuff earlier, I think in preparation for this podcast, and I was like, hey, geez, what was I writing about there? I don't know what that means even, kind of thing. It's just waffle from some real in-depth conversation I might have had with somebody. And I like, so, it's documentation is important, but it's also important to keep it pretty concise, I reckon, so that you don't confuse yourself or forget what you mean or get tangled up in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
just observing your animals, and just being in sync with the collection. It gets a rhythm about it.
Really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which will come with time spent with the animals. It's all well and good to read a bunch of stuff, but you can read something and then you get that idea in your head that your animal is doing that or is not doing that or whatever. But your animals could be doing something completely different if you just had a look
Yeah.
at it. You might be able to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Well, if someone was looking to get into the chondro game in Australia now, what would you suggest that they do?
Um, yeah. I mean, I want to say, just find out a little bit about green trees. Do a bit of reading. There's information out there. I think one thing that I find a little bit irritating is the kind of world we live in nowadays. People want everything given to them on a plate, and you know, I've moved on a few of the babies I produced last year, but I didn't sell them lightly. And I'm sure if any of the people that bought babies from me are watching, they'll probably smile and think, yeah, he did give me a bit of a grilling, because I wanted to make sure that these babies that were, they were the result of 4 or 5 years work, weren't just going to go easily to anybody that was a novice and hadn't done any reading, kind of thing. And I do think, so I kind of like get messages. I'm sure you both see them yourself, that will just go, "Hi, you got anything available?" Full stop, and they don't get much of a response from me because, um, without any kind of introduction or explanation about what they know, kind of thing. So I think my advice would be, do before you kind of even approach somebody, do a little bit of reading and do a bit of finding out about the animals, um, 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 before you approach a breeder.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sound advice. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, yeah, just being genuinely interested. I think we live in a world that's so, I see that blue snake and I want it sort of thing,
Yeah,
but it's,
exactly right. Yeah,
yeah, and I think you're right. We pour our so much time into this. This has been for me. The time is just unbelievable. The amount of energy and time and planning and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we don't take it lightly. We every single one of those babies we've agonized over.
agree, agree.
So it's good. I'm the same. I think that you have to jump through a few hoops, and so you should. I think.
Yeah,
And that's not being elitist or anything like that. It's just that it's not. It's just
Yeah,
genuinely
yeah.
trying to. You get so many people contact you. You want to see your babies go in. For me, it's it's a legacy. I think. Yeah, I want that breeder code to exist in a lineage chart. When I'm long dead and no one remembers my name. So
I think that's important actually, Dan, as well. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today was lineage charts and lineage and breeder codes and stuff like that. And one of the package when I sell a snake, it goes with a care guide, it goes with its lineage chart, it goes with its full downloaded husbandry record from that app that I mentioned earlier. And one of the things I do specify in the information at the beginning of the care sheet is that this is the breeder code for this animal, and when you refer to it, would you please refer to it by this breeder code exactly as it's printed here? Because I think that's where we probably can become different from uh, you know others, because and that's how we're going to progress as a hobby in Australia once we start recording who who the parents are, who the grandparents are, what the kind of what localities or mixes they were, and all of those kind of things. So breeder codes and lineage charts I think are really important, and we don't see enough of it.
So if I want to get on your wrong side, Paul, if I scramble up your breeder code, that would do it, wouldn't it? You'd love that.
It would piss me off a little bit. Just a little bit kind of thing, because yeah.
So, on that lineage sort of note, how would someone go about starting that? For example, for me, my animals don't really have names or anything, and if I'm getting ahead of myself, I could produce some animals this year.
Yeah.
What would I do?
He had to do it, didn't he, Paul? He had to do it.
I
Yeah.
said it. I'm not superstitious.
um,
I'm not scared of the chondro gods.
So
What have I done?
how'd you come up with a lineage chart? Is that what? Sorry, I don't know if I'm understanding you.
Well, I guess like I've got a couple of animals that I don't really have lineage on them.
Yeah.
They're
So do
just
you
sort of
know?
random.
Yeah. For example, you know who you bought them from, so you could just even if the most basic information is you go back to the guy you bought the snake from and said, did you breed this? If so, there you go. Even if you've just got that it's a male, that it was a Aussie Aru mix, and it was bred by Joe Bloggs, that was the sire. And there's the
Yeah,
start. And it's the same with the dam. Even if it's got no name, no breeder code, doesn't matter. It's the start of something. Put it on a bit of paper, and then that goes with your animal. I mean, I've got some nice examples here. This is one that I've got from. You'll recognise that, Dan. That's from Chain Lightning. Is an animal that I
Yeah.
bought from Dan.
awesome.
This is a lineage chart from Andrew Owen, from an animal I got from Andrew Owen this year, which goes back for a few generations. And this is what I've done with my own animals. I put a photo of the animal's breeder code, its parents, its grandparents, and its great grandparents. And in fact, it's a lot of it's just it's just like you would do if you were tracing your own family tree. You've got to ask questions. You've got to get onto people and bother them and ask them, what do you know about this animal's parents? And then if you can find a bit about the parents, then find out who bred them, and then go to that person and just ask questions. It is hard, and I do find that sometimes people don't know, and I do also find that there's confusion. There's a couple of mine that I'm not sure. You go back a generation or two, and I'm not sure whether the dam was this animal or that animal, because they looked very similar, and the breeder themselves couldn't tell the difference between the photos. And so there are some that I know that the sire or the grandsire is animal A or animal B, and I've put that in my chart. It's either this or that kind of thing. But it's just interesting information that builds up a lineage. It's
Yeah,
interesting. Lineage is interesting, isn't it? Because I think it makes the hobby much more interesting, but it also gets it's how the words even interpreted. I see there's a guy asked recently, some, seen a picture of an interesting animal on one of the pages, and he asked what its lineage was, and I wasn't sure really what he was asking when he asked that question. What's the lineage? Because I don't think he was asking what's its family tree.
Mm.
That's too much to answer in a simple question like that. I think he was probably more asking what's its locality mix, or I don't know. It could be misinterpreted.
Interesting. It's been
Definitely.
interesting for me too because I'm quite interested in inbreeding coefficients as well. So I want to be able to know the relatedness of these animals. And I think in some of these, early animals, we have to assume that they're probably full siblings as well.
Yeah,
So, I do a lot of that. I just have some assumptions in my calculations to say, you know what, these are probably all clutch mates,
yeah,
given that the scarcity, I guess, of a lot of these animals back in the early, late 90s, early 2000s.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So something I think it's a bit interesting is, in Australia, like we've got some animals that are definitely bitses, they've got a bit of this, they've got a bit of that. We
Yeah,
don't really know
Yep.
exactly what they've got. How
yeah,
would one go about, you know, I guess publicizing what sort of, I guess, locality mix your animal could be? Like, I've got one that I don't know what the hell it is. So, what should I
yeah.
do there? I guess.
I think you should. Well, that's a real good question, actually, Joe. I think it's hard, and I think there's a fair few people who are saying, I've got this. This is a Iron Range pure Aussie I've got here because it looks like one, but without any history going back to where those animal came from. I know there's a few breeders that would be producing Iron Range pure Aussies, for example, but I also know people who are saying, here's some green snakes with a white stripe, and they're pure Aussie, for example. And without knowing where they came from, without that lineage, I'm not really sure how they can say that. So I prefer would those people would say this is an Australian type or an Aru type because that's the phenotype. It looks to be. They're the kind of characteristics it's showing. But so I think using the word type is important if you don't know. And there's no doubt that my guys that I sold this year were Aussie. The dad was a pure Aussie, I know for a fact, a Russell Grant pure Aussie, but the dam was a Aussie stroke cross Aru. So that's what they were sold as mixed. Whereas I do know there's a lot being sold as pure Aru or pure Aussie or whatever, and they're kind of like questionable as to where that word pure comes from.
Yeah, I think the semantics within green python keeping can be pretty important. I think some of these things that what you're talking about right now, Paul, are important for people to know, and it sort of all ties back in as well with lineage, which is important. But how can you sort of determine what animals you have without knowing the lineage and whatnot?
Yeah,
And all of this stuff must be put together by someone who has done the research and has the knowledge to be able to put something together accurately to then pass
yeah,
on accurate information to someone else who can hopefully continue to do it afterwards.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Geez, that was a bit of a chunky one, wasn't it? A bit of a dense topic. I like it. I like it. But we we can move on from that, I suppose. um, how did you go about pairing last year when you did it? What did you cycle beforehand? How did you decide on when to pair and what to pair and all those sorts of things?
Yeah, so I paired the only female I got that was breeding age at the time, so I didn't get a whole lot of choice. If I was gonna breed last year, she was just coming up to she was 4 actually. So she was on the young side of things. Um, and then wanted to breed. Well, I wanted to breed the pure Aussie that I'd got with from Russell Grant, because I knew that he's a beautiful snake, and thought that the two together were going to make nice babies, basically. So they went together, and yeah, that's how I chose who. What was the rest of the question? Sorry.
Did you do any cycling?
Yeah, cycling. Yeah, so I kind of cycle food, temperature, and light, and I try to, as much as possible. One of the things I did again last year, you're going to think I'm a bit geeky, is I downloaded the data from the um, Bureau of Meteorology, and took a load of statistics that are the kind of climatic conditions in the iron range of the dry season and the wet season, and when you get when you get the high temperatures and the low temperatures and the high humidity and the low humidity. And so I tried to cycle kind of around that. So I kind of like stopped feeding probably at the end of the dry season towards October, November, stopped feeding, and then really kind of ramp up the feeding in January to March time, when the wet season starts and there's an abundance of prey. So and in terms of temperature, I do the same. I start as we're starting to come into probably March time, I start dropping the nighttime temperatures and the daytime temperatures a little bit. Summer, I usually keep on the warm side, the temperature about 29 degrees, and in winter, I keep it about 28 degrees on the warm side. The cool side does its own thing, and I start dropping the nighttime temperatures in about March down to about incrementally down to about 23 and a half, and that's the warm side. So it gets cooler in the room, and the cool side gets a lot cooler. So that's the temperature and the food cycling. And I just use the daylight outside. I change all the lights in the caging and in the room are set. They're automatically set with technology, so I can change the times that the lights come on and off, and dim the lighting and whatnot, to try and mimic what's going on outside, so that they're seeing a different photo period as the seasons change.
Yeah, yeah, really ticking all those boxes there. That sounds great. I did have some wonder recently about when I shouldn't stop feeding. For the to get a bit of a calorie deficit sort of food cycle going on, and then I just realized in my head, I'm like, oh, you know what? In November and December, it's really damn hot up there, and there's not much food going around, so maybe that makes sense. And then January,
Yeah,
February is when the rains start and everything starts moving, and that's just really what makes the most sense.
yeah,
Paul, do you feed males the whole time and just let them
yeah.
naturally
Actually,
shut
and
out?
and that's. I mean, the two things I notice in behaviours when they're starting to get ready, I notice the females shifting over to the cool side, and I notice, because I've got cameras. I think you probably see one behind my head. As I'm looking at the cages, I sit on this sofa. It's my favourite place, and look at all the cages. But at the camera at night time, I see the males start really pacing, kind of thing. So they're the kind of visual cues that I see that things are changing, and they're getting ready to start to breed. Um, yeah. Sorry, I've kind of lost track of what you said again.
Oh no, I just asked you. Just try to feed the males. There's no real
Yeah.
cycle with
Thanks.
males.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you. Yes. No, actually, and I know a lot of males go off feed, and I've had the odd male that has refused a feed in breeding season once or twice, but generally speaking, I don't know why. My males will continue to feed. I'll separate them when I've paired them. I'll separate them maybe after a week or so and offer food to both the male and the female. Yeah, generally, yeah, I don't notice the males going off food like a lot of people say.
Well, it's funny, Paul. I used to have the same, but I think I've got some slightly different locality mixes now, and I think it's got something to do with the types of localities, in my opinion.
May
But
well, yeah, may well
yeah,
be, yeah. Interesting.
yeah, the pretty ones are
Fascinating.
painful. Yeah.
Always, always.
Mm.
Well, Paul, will we have a look at some of your critters? Maybe I can
Yeah, sure.
I can pull that up and how's that look? Can we see that? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
we've
I
got
probably
Paul here.
don't post enough actually. There's not a lot of pictures on there. I probably don't post enough. So that top left hand guy there. Oh yeah,
Yeah, this
so
guy.
that's Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky. So he's been breeding with Cassini this year. He's from Kyle Brown, and he that was him going through OCC. He's absolutely stunning male. He really went through some crazy color changes, and he's not as impressive looking as he is there at the moment, but he's still got a lot of yellow on him and those blue diamonds on his back and some quite a lot of black speckling and a lot of yellow around his neck and his face. So hopefully he was a red baby and he's hopefully going to be siring the clutch. Cassini, who was the dam from last season, he's been with her. That I could tell you exactly what they did in terms of how I went about it this year, and I use ultrasound, and so I could tell
Yeah,
you
sure.
how
Paul,
that.
before I got one question though. Before you get into that,
Yeah, go on.
has he retained his red eyes?
Yeah, it's kind of no, not nowhere near as much as when he was a baby. He had got quite, and again, like I say, I don't put enough photos on my Facebook page or my Instagram. I should really update them all and put them on. But his eyes, they've kind of gone like a more greyish colour.
Okay.
It's kind of browny greyish colour. They're not as red as they were when he was a baby for sure.
Just interested.
But I think that he was from Kyle. I think you have you got some a red
I've
from Kyle.
I've got a full sibling to that
Yeah.
one.
So and the eyes of that one of the what would you say?
Still red at the moment, but
Right.
he's only 2 years old. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
this Jabberwocky was from 2021. So yeah.
21. So mine I
Yeah.
think is at 23.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
23.
yeah. Yeah.
Just have to have a
Pretty
look.
sure. Yeah. Jabberwocky was 21. Yeah.
And he bred early, so that gives me a lot of hope, Paul.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd try him last year, but I don't think he was up to it at all, actually. So this year he definitely knew what to do and he locked pretty well straight away. He didn't lock the first night I put him in with her, but the second night he was away with it. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
And did you use the ultrasound much this year?
Yeah, I did. So I got the ultrasound. I bought the ultrasound last year, and yeah, there's a few of us. There's three of us that I know of that are kind of good mates that all got similar ultrasounds, and I think I'm kind of a slight advantage because I use an ultrasound in my practice at work. I kind of like wasn't learning the technology from scratch, which I think would be more challenging. But yeah, I use the ultrasound. I can tell you. I wrote down a few notes earlier to show you the way that she's progressed this season. If you're interested. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, so she on the 5th of April. Bearing in mind what I've said about cycling, I did the first ultrasound on her this year, and her follicles were showing between sorry about that. Not that's peacocks outside. We've got two bloody. They're not even ours. They belong to the neighbours. Um, Sorry about that.
Because I'm looking
That's
around
awesome.
going, what is that?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I know, I
it's not
know.
outside my house.
I tell you what, they're the most irritating animals. They actually belong to our neighbours. We live on rural property, but they seem to think they want to spend most of their time making that noise outside of. Anyway, yeah, 5th of April, the follicles on her were 4.5 to 5 millimeters. And on the 1st of May, she moved over to the cool side. On the 7th of May, I paired the two of them, and they locked up straight away. Now I only kept them paired for a couple of days there because I went over to the UK. It's all kicking off now. The dogs barking,
The
the
dogs.
peacocks are going. Um, um, yeah, so I went to the UK on the 9th of May. So it was just kind of like I'd seen where her follicles were, and I just wanted to see the two animals were compatible. So they did lock up a couple of times before I went to the UK for 3 weeks. Got back on the 1st of June, and I paired them again on the 3rd of June, and they locked the next day. And they locked for a good long time overnight and throughout the morning on the 4th and the 5th of June. On the 5th of June, when they separated, I ultrasounded her again, and she was at 8.5 millimeter follicles. So I repaired them. Now, I reckon the best, if you do use ultrasound, I reckon the best time to pair them is when the follicles are between 8 and 14 millimeters. And I think I got that information from Socrates, not directly, but via somebody else. On the 9th of June, the male goes into shed, so I separated them. 17th of June. So this is all quite, short time scales. I ultrasounded her again, and she was at 13.1 millimeters. So they were paired back again. By the
Sorry,
24th.
Paul, can I ask a question? Are you
Yeah.
still? Is she still feeding at this point in time?
Yeah, she's still
Okay.
feeding. She's a ferocious feeder. But
Okay.
by the 24th of June, she was beginning to look visually like she was developing. So without the ultrasound, by this point, that would have been the first kind of indication that I thought she was developing. With the benefit of the ultrasound, I knew way before then that she was developing things. Then by the
So
5th of July, yeah.
sorry, Paul. I just want to ask, what's the time frame? Sorry, I wasn't paying enough attention clearly. Between you said 8 millimeters and then
You need
13
to take
millimeters.
notes, Dr. Mack.
What were those
Yeah,
two
come
dates?
on.
I know.
I think the dogs barking and the peacocks crowing, or
The
whatever
peacocks
peacocks do,
threw me off.
is off putting. So we went from the 5th of June, they were 8.5 millimeters. The 17th of June, 13.1 millimeters. So they'd
Okay, so a couple of
increased.
weeks.
So 2 weeks, they'd kind of made a relatively big increase in size. And then by the 5th of July, she was at 20.7 millimeters. And I tried feeding her on the 10th of July. So they're pretty good sized follicles by then, and she reluctantly fed. But I had to really almost like tease her, like you would do a neonate. I could have quite possibly took that as her first refusal of food. But if she'll take it, I'll give it her, and she did take it. And then on the 15th of July, she was very restless. On the 16th of July, I offered her food again, and she refused it on the 16th, and she ovulated on the 28th of July. So, and interestingly, I did post ovulation do another ultrasound. It's only because two of my mates were talking about the difference between ultrasound views of follicles and ultrasound views of eggs, and we were having a chat on via Messenger, and the curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to have a look at it then. So by the 5th of August, post ovulation, as they're being shelled, then she was showing they were 29 to 30 millimeters, so which is about the right size of a chondro egg.
I'm resisting this whole ultrasound thing, but it's difficult to resist.
I think, there's pros and cons like anything. I think if you're going to get it, you've kind of got to learn how to use it. You've got to use it appropriately, and you've got to resist the urge to not be ultrasounding your animals every 5 minutes. You've got to be able to leave them alone a little bit. They don't sit still like ball pythons do. So you see the American guys that are ultrasounding ball pythons and they just sit there. It's a different thing altogether with a chondro, and it's a skill that takes practice, like any skill kind of thing. So I think, if you were just to buy a machine without kind of anybody showing you the whys and wherefores, you'd probably struggle, kind of thing. But I think, I certainly felt that it helped me to know where we were, kind of thing, and when was a good time to be pairing. And like I said, I knew that she was well on the way to developing follicles before she showed. And she didn't show very well last year. Actually, she kind of holds her follicles in that back coil rather than that classic rolled over kind of dorsal spine that you want to see there. That she doesn't always show that. She tends to hold that thicker body at the back on that back coil, so it's harder to see. She just kind of thickens up a little bit. But because I had the ultrasound, I knew full well that she was well on the way.
Paul, in your notes, did you note any sort of color change at any particular follicular size?
Yeah, I didn't correlate those two things, but she definitely
Paul,
I'm sorry. Is that as loud as it sounds here? I could ask somebody to go and change.
Just disappointed in your note taking. That's all.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were complaining about the bloody peacocks. Yeah, I know. I'm a letdown, aren't I? No, I couldn't say actually when it was. She does change colour. She kind of goes a kind of quite a washed out colour. She's a nice olive green colour, and she kind of goes a pale, kind of bluish colour kind of thing. Definitely, there's a big colour change with her. And I didn't make notes. I'm sorry about that.
Was it towards?
Must apologize.
Was it sort of more towards food refusal, or did it happen early on?
I'm not sure actually, Dan. But okay. I'd say probably coming up to food refusal. I think once I started to see those visual signs, and I'm thinking, I would start to notice if I didn't have the ultrasound now. That's when there was a color change as well, and for sure by the time she's relatively late in refusing food. I hear other people's dams stop eating earlier than her. She, like I say, she's such a ferocious eater. So
yeah, because that was just a couple of days, was it? Like a couple of weeks between food refusal and ovulation.
Only a few weeks. Yeah. As I say, so she was reluctant on the 10th of July.
That's not in the book, is it, Paul? That should be.
It's not in the book. 10th of July, she was reluctant, and she ovulated on the 28th of July, and she refused. Her first refusal was on the 16th, so 12 days before. Wow. Her last meal was on the 15th of July, so 2 or 3 weeks before she ovulated.
Wow. Well, Paul, if my math is mathing correctly, we're at about 36 days post-ovulation.
Yeah, so I've got, she's 38 days today, post-ovulation.
Math wasn't
You're nearly mathing, right? You're nearly mathing,
yeah,
right?
almost.
And she's 14 days post ovulation shed. So she shed on day 24. Last year she shed on day 22, so she was 2 days out after ovulation. She's 38 and she's in the lay box. I kind of think we are literally in the next day or two. I think she's kind of like spending more and more time in the lay box. She comes out at night, perches a little bit, and I'm tempted to take those perches out soon as well, so she doesn't do anything crazy during the night. And you see people having chondros where they lay eggs off the perch from a height. So I'm tempted in the next night or two to take the perches out, or certainly the higher perch.
Well, why not? You may as well
Yeah, yeah.
eliminate that risk. What day did she lay on last year?
Day 40, bang on day 40, like
Awesome.
clockwork. Yeah,
That's in the book.
That's in the
yeah,
book.
that is in the book. Yeah,
Get the purchase out.
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say something I found interesting, Paul, that you said when you were looking for greens back in, the 2010s ish, you were having trouble finding them. What do you think was the barrier to access back then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just didn't know where to start. I mean, I was kind of searching on the internet and just Google searching, and it wasn't coming up with anything. I was checking on um, one of the old forums, Aussie Pythons and Snakes, on the kind of they had a classified section, and I couldn't find anything there. Um, so yeah, I didn't. I think it was before I probably had much of a presence on, and that certainly I didn't see, like um, Green Tree Python specific sites on Facebook. I've been more of a newcomer to Instagram just because I'm old. So I didn't really know where to start. I didn't have any connections. Obviously, I mean, the first snake I bought in Australia, to be honest, literally just bought it from a pet shop. It was a spotted python. I kind of just walked into the pet shop and said, "Oh yeah, that looks nice. I'll have that kind of thing." And that was how naive I was. As being new to the country back then. Uh, I had no idea where to even start looking, kind of thing. So they were kind of this mysterious creature that. So it was only just by, I suppose, doing homework, and then you get to know one person. Um, I think I maybe posted on one of the Chondro room or something like that, one of the Aussie administered Facebook pages, and Jason Allen had just got an animal off of James Lyon, and he put me in touch with James Lyon in Melbourne, and so they were the first kind of contacts I got right back then, and I think once you start getting to know one or two people, they can put you onto somebody else, and they can put you onto somebody else, and before you know it, you start having a kind of small group of people that can give you the tip off. They're still hard to get hold of now. I mean, I found a couple of the people I sold my clutch to from last year. They were all yellows, and they've come back to me already and said, "Where do I get a red?" And I was just like, "Well, that's a good question.
It's a
It's a
great
good
question.
question."
Yeah. Yeah, well, some of those sort of animals, you really have to build those relationships and have those,
For
um, you know,
sure.
you almost have to, well, prove yourself as you've sort of spoke about earlier.
I think
Um, you
so. I
know,
think you've got to have the relationship to know who's producing them, and I think you've got to have their trust. Most people are not just going to sell an animal to anybody, kind of thing. Particularly, one of the higher level animals. So they've got
yeah,
to, they've got to kind of know you and trust you that the animal's going into good hands. I think.
yeah. Geez, there's a lot involved, and I like it. I wish there was this sort of community and sort of, I guess, sort of unwritten rules about more animals out there. I've spoken about before on the podcast. A lot of animals get devalued just because of how cheap they are, and then they don't have the same level of care. And that's definitely something green python keepers like practically across the board do really well. Just the level of care is right up there.
Yeah, I think so
Um,
as well. I agree.
there might be a fine line between having a good level of care and making chondro keeping your entire personality, but that's okay.
Tends to have that impact on you, though. It's I
Yeah,
think the hard thing with chondro is you start with 2 adults. By the end of the year, you've got 1 left because one of them dies. You
which is
have
true.
you have, let's say, 20 eggs. You lose 5 of them in incubation, so you end up with 15. Some of those are dead or deformed, and so you end only up with 8 or 9 probably viable snakes sometimes out of a
Yeah,
clutch. And so
That'd be great.
this is well, this is the challenge, and
Yeah.
and then if you start to build your collection and you've got, if you're going to buy your rodents, let's say, like it takes a fair bit of money to do all that. So
Resources,
you're trying to, and it's hard to get rid of them. Let's be honest,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't something to go into lightly. And I think if you get, I mean, I've been a little bit hooked into the technology side of things as well. Um, I like to use things like the microclimate Evo connected to thermostats because I can control them from my phone. I can see what's going on. I can see what the warm side, the cool side is. I can track um, trends over a week, a day, a year. While I was over in the UK, I could see what was happening and I could make minor alterations as we were going through cycling um, from the other side of the world, and I could watch all that through the cameras and stuff. But just those thermostats, they're $500 a throw kind of thing. So when you've got, you times that by a lot of animals, that's a lot of money just on thermostats, for example. So it's not something you can go into lightly. There's a lot of money invested before you start producing anything at all, really.
Or you can just live in cans and chuck them all in cages outside and they'll be right.
Well, that would be that. Yes, that's true. Yeah,
It's not that easy either. It's not that easy.
just
Yeah, and having a strong interest in the husbandry and the technology only ever going to benefit the animals, and then long term you as the keeper as well.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's good. Yeah. So,
Oh,
you
can I
seem
ask
to.
one question, Joe? I was
Please,
just going to
Dan,
say,
go ahead. Yeah.
out of all of the gear that you're so deep into the gear, like what is the one piece of gear you just couldn't live without, Paul?
Oh, there's a good question. I don't know actually. Let me think. I do love the cameras. I must admit they're cheap as chips. There's a camera up here, and I've got one up over there as well, so I can watch the room at night time, and that's when they really get active, and you can see what's going on with them. And so I, you know, probably the cheapest equipment, actually, the $50 cameras
Yeah.
have come in really useful. Um, but it's hard to say actually. The ultrasound for me personally, and I know it's not for everybody. I'm not going to kind of recommend people go out and buy ultrasounds necessarily, but I do think that's been a really useful thing. And another thing that I haven't needed, but I feel happy is that I've got like a power bank EcoFlow, one of those big kind of electric power banks that runs the incubator and the fan on the incubator if I get a power outage. So
Oh yeah.
that I've tested that a few times, and that'll run the incubator heat cord through the thermostat and the little computer fan in there for probably, I don't know, I want to say about 17, 18 hours without, and you could also attach it to solar panels as well, so you could get it going longer than that if you wanted to. So that's probably a bit of technology that just gives peace of mind, and that's Wi-Fi enabled as well. So you can see, if you're away, you can see what that's doing in terms of power output and how long it's got left.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I bought a generator just because of that as well. Just it's actually not so much for me to have that UPS power supply on the incubator, but I need to run an air conditioner to keep the
Yeah,
temperature down. Usually in
yeah,
summer up here, so I need to be
yeah,
able to have a generator.
yeah,
So
yeah.
all these little things, Can you
Yeah,
imagine
it's
losing
one
a
of the
clutch because you
yeah
lost power?
yeah.
It's like, whoa.
It's I mean
Oof.
I suppose the thing is you've only got so much control humanly on you can think of contingencies for most things, but you're right. The heat in this room, it's a double garage, and there's one of the problems I get in the afternoon is the heat hitting the metal garage doors, and so I just ordered some thermal insulation to go on the garage doors. They never get opened, and the company's just said they can't deliver it. So I've got to find another supplier because the room is relatively well insulated, other than those two big
Hmm.
metal garage doors, which act like radiant heat panels in themselves. So I could have the aircon on and and maintain on a really hot day, maintain the temperature, coolish or cooler than it would be without. But it's those two garage doors that are the problem that I've got to get insulated.
And it'll be really interesting when you get those insulated. You'll have to just relearn your whole keeping again.
Yeah,
It's
for
because this
sure.
is what's
Yeah,
happened to me. I've gone through a very similar situation. It's like, man, I've got to relearn my room and the temperature, all the temperature gradients and everything's just
yeah,
completely changed.
yeah. That's another thing to answer the question again. I know I've answered but about four different things. The other technology thing is a little data logger, temperature thermometer,
What about one of these,
and
Paul?
one of them. Yeah, got
Oh
to have
yeah.
one of
Come
those.
on.
Yeah. Um, Um, but yeah, just so you can, I like the Wi-Fi Govies because you can again see what temperature your room is,
Yeah.
the enclosures, your incubator, and you can see humidities as well. So you can kind of make adjustments very easily by just looking on your phone, even if you're not at home. So they're handy little things for cheap as chips.
You find that the Govies are fairly accurate?
Yeah, I do actually. I got and you can calibrate them as well. And so the easiest way, I've got a ton of them, I've got loads of them, and I think the easiest way I calibrate them is put them all in a incubator or something and see if you've got six of them in an incubator and five of them are all within point one or two of a degree and one of them's way out, just calibrate that one to the other five kind of thing.
Yeah.
But somebody had put me in touch with a company that does chicken thermometers for chicken incubation, and they're supposed to be accurate to within point one or point two of a degree or something. So I got one of those, and threw that in with them. I tend to test them in an incubator because you've got a constant temperature and humidity in a small area kind of thing, and I threw that in with them as well, and it was I found them that I haven't found them to be massively out from each other. So and given, I suppose they could be inaccurate, but given that they're all reading the same, I kind of if they're half a degree out, well, they're all I'm measuring like with like kind of thing.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Very reasonable.
Yeah.
I I recently got a couple of Inkbird little same sort of thing, but Inkbird ones, and they were reading
Yeah.
2 degrees separate. So I'm like, well,
Okay.
that's not very accurate. So sort of all the information they gave me, I can't really do much with, or can't really trust if they're
Yeah.
2 degrees separate. So maybe I'll have to invest in some of the Gobies.
Yeah.
Dan, you mentioned incubation before. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So incubator, I've got two of them,
Good.
and they're both, well, one of them's an ex medical drug refrigerator, and one of them is a wine cooler, and both set up in the same way, thermostats, heat cord, and computer fans.
Yep. And what? So you're
So
running
what
two.
thermostat? What thermostat?
That's important.
Just I've got them here next to me. It's the Habistat pulse proportional.
Okay.
Yeah, because I used to keep them on my cages, and the reason I don't like them on the cages is you can't do a night drop without doing it manually. But obviously, on the incubator you don't need to do a night drop. The only thing the mistake I've made, I would say, is I probably would have put the thermostat control on the back of the incubator rather on the side of the incubator, because it worries me that I'm going to knock the little dial on it, because it's got a little,
Oh, yeah.
dial to turn it up. So if I was going to do it again, I could easily change it. I'm careful, and I'm the only person that comes in this room. But if I was going to give anyone advice, I'd say if you're using that kind of thing, make sure that the dial is somewhere that can't accidentally be knocked. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into trouble pretty quick.
I think that's sound advice for sure. And so you're running two separate incubators, two different temperatures?
Nah, well, for two reasons really. Only, and again, this is probably just me overthinking things. One is that one's backup. If there's a problem, something happens, and I've got eggs, I can just move them from one into another. I don't have to worry about problem solving. I can just move the egg box from one incubator into the other. So I running them at the same temperature at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, um, and secondly, this is the overthinking bit. I think, if I've got one egg container in there, and I've got all the temperature and humidity and the air circulating, and I've got it set up, you dial these things in over the weeks and months before the eggs are actually hatched. If I get a second clutch and I put another egg box in there, I worry that that's going to change the whole kind of climate, for want of a better word, inside the incubator. So I'd rather, if I get a second clutch, just put that box in the. So while I'm testing, I put the a mock-up egg box in the incubator as well. So it's literally testing the capacity of the airspace within the incubator chamber. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
So,
Yeah,
and
I like that.
Did you mention temperatures, Paul?
Yeah, probably. I've got them set up at 31 degrees at the moment, and I'm probably going to just go straight bake at 31 degrees. Maybe drop it the last 10 days, 5 days, as they start respiring and giving off heat themselves. But I think I said I was going to do that last year, and I accidentally at some point, I can't remember why, realised in the middle part the temperatures had probably gone up to about 31.5, and that was, I can't remember how that happened, so I dropped them down a little bit more in the last 10 days. So I'd actually done the three-stage Greg Maxwell kind of by accident last year, but it worked. I mean, I had a 12 eggs, 12 babies hatched. So it worked. But I think I'd probably just aim for more or less straight bacon with probably a small drop towards the end.
Very good. What's your
Sounds good.
methodology, Dan?
Yeah, I've been doing a similar methodology, about 31, but I like them to get up to 31 and a half for a period, but then I drop down in the last from about day 40. But it's been a funny thing. I'm sort of evolving. I'm trying for the straight bake, and then in the last week just drop it down to 30 degrees. But it's it's a hard thing. You got to kind of look at your eggs as well, I think.
Yeah.
You want to see them really, if they're starting to really cave in and things are happening, you got to sort of, when that's happening, and maybe a week after that, start dropping temperatures. I don't know. It's not a very helpful answer, but again, it's another one of those things. But most of my eggs sort of hatch 55 days. I've never hatched a clutch on day 50, and I used to cut on day 50, but now I restrained myself last year and just had my hands off and waited till they pipped, and I actually had I think I didn't have to. Maybe I had to cut one egg out of 20 odd. They all pipped on around that sort of mid 50, 55 day, 54 day. So I actually find that last week of eggs the most excruciating time.
Yeah.
I think out of the whole process, I find it
very difficult. I agree. I was watching them the whole time and expecting them to go mouldy, expecting them to go bad, and they didn't do. They looked good, and they started denting in when I expected them to start denting in, and I started worrying, really worrying about them in that last week. And
Yeah.
funnily enough, I, I, I thought to myself, I candled those eggs when they first, when they were first came out of the egg box and before they went in the incubator, and I saw veins on all of them and put a little mark on the top where I thought the embryo was, and I said to myself, I'm not going to candle them again, and that's it. And the reason for that is I'd heard the theory that somebody or a few of the guys had said that there's a theory that some of the neos when they come out and they get tied up in their umbilical cord, it's something there's the question is there a link to them being candled during incubation? Does that make them move and twist around? I don't know whether it's right or not, but for that reason, I decided I wasn't going to candle them again. But I kind of caved in the night before they hatched, and I thought I could and I tell you why, and I can't articulate this, but the eggs surface looked different. It looked more leathery. It looked like it had kind of gone tougher. And so I was worried about them the night before they hatched. And I thought, something looks wrong. And so I candled them. And I wish I hadn't, because I saw nothing. I expected I'd see some movement, and I saw I saw no movement. And so I'd got
Because they're
two
full of
problems.
baby snake, Paul.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. But this is the first time I was doing it, and I can't be sure I'm not going to be as neurotic again this year. I feel more relaxed, but um, I got straight on to my mentor and I said, look, I think something's gone wrong. The eggs look like they've gone leathery. They look like I can't imagine anything's going to be able to hatch through this. If they're alive, they're not moving. I've candled them. I said I wouldn't candle them. What am I going to do? And he said, just relax. There's nothing you can do, just leave it. And actually the following day, I got up and there was the little head poking out. So they were fine. You can overthink these things for sure.
And the best feeling in the world. I think
Yeah.
my wife just breathes a sigh of relief when that happens, because I just turn into an absolute. I don't think I was that nervous when my children were born. Because I'll set the camera up, of course, because you have to, and maybe even two cameras. So you got a couple of angles.
Yeah.
And I just I hate it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It is hard. I think that actually that I was glad they started hatching the next day, because I was in almost panic mode by that stage.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have a psychiatrist probably reach out to me, looking for a new customer or something. Anyway.
It's really not for the highly strung, is it?
No,
this whole thing,
the whole keeping and breeding, and I mean, it does step up to another level. I think it can be stressful keeping chondros anyway, because they can just fall off the perch for sure. We've all seen it happen, but it steps up another level once you start breeding, in terms of the amount of knowledge you need and the amount of things that can go wrong, and therefore the amount of anxiety that goes along with that.
Yeah, and I think you really got to control yourself, because the worst thing you can do is actually do something a lot of the time. Chondros.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do anything. Just leave the bloody things alone.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's the hardest thing. It's probably my biggest failing is sitting on your hands and do nothing. Just leave them, let nature, you think she's sitting over on the cool side. I think she should be sitting on the warm side, or this is happening with an egg. And well, there's there's most of the time there's nothing we can do, or intervention is only going to mess things up. So you're absolutely right. It is the hardest thing.
Yes, your middle name's not Evolution, Paul.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Well,
see, I think we're all a bit neurotic. We're all a bit neurotic. It's okay. It's okay.
We should start a self-help group.
I don't think chondro guys together will help each other at all.
No, well, yeah.
in
maybe,
that
maybe
sort
not.
of self-help
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
topic. But
yeah.
I think we're getting pretty close to an hour and a half. I think we might
Okay.
look at wrapping things up. But I've got a fun question, Paul. It's if you could add any green python to your collection from anywhere in the world, what would it be?
Um,
There's
that's
too
a good
many out there,
question.
isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There
Too
is.
many to pick
I
from.
wish, you know what? It's a great question actually, and I wish I could say, I wish I could tell you the name and breeder code of an Aussie one that I'd want to, but of course the American guys are posting these amazing designer animals. I think I'd say there's a John Irby animal, mid-Atlantic arboreals, and its name's Frostbite. Um, Dan's nodding. Dan knows the animal. It's a
I know the
blue.
animal too.
Yeah, so it's kind of
Yeah,
like
you could just pick anything in
it's
John Irby's collection. It wouldn't really matter. I
well, you
don't think.
could,
You know.
you could. I mean, but it's got so much melanism in it. It's got so much blue in it, and it's got these amazing bright yellow diamonds on its back as well. It's just incredible looking animal. So I think, yeah, if I could, I reckon I'd say Frostbite.
I like the way you think, Paul. I like that. I like that a lot. I think, yeah, I go through phases, but yeah, definitely Frostbite's a favourite of mine for sure. That thing's unreal.
Yeah,
Right, Dan,
there's a
anything you
million
wanted
that
to
you could.
ask, Paul?
No, it's been great, Paul. I've enjoyed it so much. It's
Yeah,
good to have a good laugh about this stuff.
yeah.
Certainly I'm going to go away and really reflect on myself, I think. Oh
Very good.
dear.
All right, Paul. If people want to find you, where can they track you down?
Yeah. So Wide Bay Chondros on Facebook or Instagram, basically.
Awesome. Happy days. Well, thanks so much for being our first guest. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure
Well,
having you
thanks.
on.
Thanks for. Yeah. No, I was honoured to be asked. Thank you very much.
No worries. And Dan, what about you? Where can people get a hold of you?
Oh, Red Earth Reptiles on Instagram. It's the only place. And yeah, that's it. Come and have a look at my
Awesome.
collection. Love sharing it
Sweet.
before
Thanks,
they all
Dan.
before they
Thanks,
all
Paul.
die. You know.
Oh no. And as for me, I'm on Instagram as joemack.uthl. So thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it. Remember to check out habitatsathome.com.au or Habitats at Home on Instagram or Facebook for all your PVC reptile enclosures and reptile supplies.